Allyship. In this section, we'll be exploring allyship. We'll cover the history and development of the concept, the 4 stages of allyship, how allyship shows up at work, and things you need to know to be a good ally. Allyship is not merely about being sympathetic or compassionate, but the active and intentional effort of individuals, often those belonging to a more privileged group, to support and advocate for the rights and inclusion of marginalised people and groups. It involves recognising inequalities, standing against discrimination, and fostering a culture of equity and respect. Allyship, in its essence, is about standing in solidarity with individuals experiencing marginalisation, advocating for their rights, and working towards dismantling systemic inequalities. The 4 steps of allyship. Becoming an ally in your community or at work will enable you to make meaningful impact. It requires ongoing commitment, learning, and action. This 4-step approach, acknowledge, converse, educate, and stance, provides a structured approach to becoming an effective ally. 1. Acknowledge. Start by acknowledging the existence of systemic inequalities and the privileges that you might hold. This involves self-reflection and an honest assessment of our own biases, as well as the social structures that perpetuate discrimination. Hopefully, the earlier modules on bias, privilege, and positionality have helped you do this. 2. Converse. Engage in open and honest conversations with members of marginalised communities. Listen with empathy to build connections and understanding of people's emotions and perspectives. Effective allyship requires creating safe spaces for dialogue where people feel heard and valued, and respecting people's choice to share their stories. 3. Educate. Educate yourself about the histories, struggles, and contributions of marginalised groups. This continuous learning process can involve reading, attending workshops, and participating in diversity and inclusion training. Educating ourselves is a key step in understanding the complexities of discrimination and empowers us as allies to act knowledgeably and sensitively. 4. Stance. Actively and visibly advocating for change and challenging discriminatory practices and behaviours. This can involve speaking out against injustice, supporting policies that promote equity, and using your platform to amplify marginalised voices. Allies must be prepared to take risks and face discomfort in standing up for what is right. Allyship in the workplace. Allyship in the workplace is essential for creating an inclusive and supportive environment where all employees feel valued and respected. It goes beyond compliance with diversity policies and involves proactive efforts to foster a culture of inclusivity. Here are some examples of how individuals show allyship in the workplace. A manager encourages participation in an employee group, attends meetings, and advocates for the group's initiatives within the company. Challenging bias. An employee notices a colleague making a biased remark during a meeting and addresses it constructively, explaining why the comment is inappropriate and promoting a respectful dialogue. Promoting inclusive practices. A team leader ensures that hiring practices are inclusive by advocating for diverse hiring panels and implementing blind recruitment processes to reduce unconscious bias. Providing platforms. A senior executive uses their position to highlight the achievements of underrepresented employees during company-wide meetings, ensuring their contributions are recognised. Dependency. Relying too heavily on allies can place an undue burden on them and may prevent systemic change. Organisations must strive to embed inclusivity into their core values and practices, rather than depending solely on individual allies. What is the bystander effect? The bystander effect is a common barrier to effective allyship. It refers to a phenomenon where individuals are less likely to intervene or offer assistance in emergency situations when others are present. Contrary to what we might think, research has shown that when witnesses are present, a diffusion of responsibility occurs, leading to a decreased likelihood of intervention. The bystander effect and allyship have a shared emphasis on individual and collective responsibility. In situations where individuals experiencing marginalisation experience discrimination or harassment, bystanders who fail to intervene effectively contribute to the maintenance of oppressive structures and play a role in perpetuating or challenging social norms and injustices. Allies who actively engage in bystander intervention disrupt this cycle by speaking out against injustice, offering support, and advocating for change. They refuse to remain silent in the face of injustice and act as a proactive stance against the passiveness of the bystander effect. Bystander effect in the workplaces. In workplace settings, the bystander effect shows up in various forms, shaping organizational dynamics and influencing decision-making processes. Refrain from expressing different opinions or challenging unethical behavior in a meeting or group discussion due to the assumption that others will address the issue. In situations where ethical concerns arise, such as witnessing dishonest behavior, bias, or unfair treatment by colleagues or superiors, employees may hesitate to speak up or report this misconduct, expecting others to take action instead. This does not offer assistance or constructive feedback when a colleague is struggling with their workload or facing challenges in meeting deadlines due to personal circumstances or additional barriers, assuming that the manager or someone else is responsible. It's worth keeping in mind that individuals experiencing marginalization often face additional barriers when it comes to speaking up in situations where the bystander effect may be at play due to fear of repercussions or previous experiences of discrimination. Organizations can take to tackle the bystander effect by creating clear reporting mechanisms and avenues for confidential disclosure. This can alleviate concerns about retaliation and encourage bystanders to speak up against bias, exclusion, and misconduct. Having a framework or process for taking action when people do speak up. Encouraging open and safe communication, promoting empathy, and cultivating a supportive culture are essential in combating the bystander effect and fostering a sense of collective accountability. Allies must be careful to avoid performative allyship, which is the act of appearing to support a cause or group experiencing marginalization publicly without genuinely committing to the work of understanding, advocating, or actively supporting the cause in private or in everyday life. For example, someone might share a social media post or attend a protest to show solidarity with a group experiencing marginalization, but they may not engage in deeper conversations about the issues, educate themselves on the root causes of oppression, or take actions to dismantle systems of inequality in their own lives or communities.